In 2014, I set out on a daring goal to build more muscle and transform my body. I thought I knew exactly what I was signing up for. I thought it would make me happy. Oh, younger Stephanie, how wrong you were. When I say the goal was to build more muscle and transform my body, I wasn't talking about getting fit or toning up. Those are perfectly fine goals. It's just, those weren't my goals. This is more of what I had in mind. Muscles built from iron, broken down under intensely heavy weight and training, and then forced to grow back, bigger, stronger, thanks to lots and lots of chicken breast and protein shakes. So yeah, what I wanted was the kind of muscle that didn't merely suggest I lift weights in the gym, but screamed it. I wanted the kind of muscles that made people do a double take, the kind that defied expectations of how strong women could and should look. Keep in mind that in 2014, the fitness landscape was very different. Muscle mommies weren't trending. Girls being jacked was not the vibe. And if women did lift weights, very few went heavy. Because the biggest concern for many women at the time was, I don't want to get too bulky. So when I decided to pursue this goal in 2014, I thought I was doing something radical. I thought I was challenging norms, pushing back against outdated ideas. And those were definitely part of it. But if I'm being completely honest, the real reason was I just wasn't happy with my body. And I thought that maybe if I changed it, it would change how I felt about it. And yes, I know I should have already liked my body. I know I should have been immune to beauty standards, self-doubt, and whatever messaging that simultaneously tells women should look a certain way and then make them feel bad about wanting to look that same way. But knowing something and truly feeling it, yeah, those are two very different things. So my answer to rebelling against what was expected of me and hopefully liking myself more in the process was muscle. A lot more muscle. And for this goal, there was one particular woman who I deemed my role model and had the physique I aspired to. The one, the only, Dana Lynn Bailey. Dana Lynn Bailey, or DLB for short, is the first ever Miss Olympia physique champion. Total defiance and a walking middle finger to traditional beauty standards. DLB was the goal. And well, you've seen the thumbnail. You know how this story ends. One glance at this image, and you can see that I did succeed, that I got there in my own way. But look at this picture more closely. Why did it take 10 years? Why does this feel so hollow? Why don't I look happy here? I got what I wanted, didn't I? These answers will come in time. But first, it all starts with the video I posted over a decade ago. This was me proclaiming this goal publicly on YouTube within a few months of starting work at bodybuilding.com. Which I'll get to later. This was the beginning of everything. I think that really keeps something like fitness, which is a never-ending life journey, in perspective. Keeps me motivated. And sure, it's a totally vain goal, but I think that's okay. Because who doesn't want to look good in a sports bra or look good with no clothes on, right? Oh, Stephanie. Little do you know that this seemingly innocent comment would be the start to the very mental prison you thought you would be free from. But I'm getting ahead of myself. This is kind of terrifying to me because I've never done anything like this. I don't know what exactly will work for me and what won't. So this is basically a first-timer's perspective. Looking back, I'd love to say it immediately made me a more confident person. And it did in a lot of ways, but more than that, it just made me really, really obsessed with getting enough protein, and well, I still am. So what did all of that protein actually lead to? Well, you've seen the front angle. Let's look at the rest of the transformation. Okay. All right, can you turn on the light? Here we go. Time to take some photos. When you look at the pictures side by side, the differences are very stark and clear. The change in my body composition, I'm much leaner here. There's a change in the amount of muscle, especially in the shoulders, chest, and arms. So, this is my transformation, 10 years in the making. Not exactly Dana Lynn Bailey, but there's no Photoshop, no gimmicks, no crash dieting 8 weeks before doing this video, just consistent lifting 3 to 5 times per week. I focused on heavy compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, and presses with accessory work to target those weaker areas. I also stayed on top of my diet, mostly, and at the same time, I allowed myself to enjoy life without obsessing over every bite. Lots of protein, balanced meals, the occasional ice cream, and other treats. And of course, there was a lot of trial and error too. Testing what worked, what didn't, and what kept me motivated. This body wasn't just from lifting. It was shaped by hiking on weekends, bike rides around the city, and the kind of movement that I never counted as training, just part of living, really. Oh, and also, big shout out to this squat rack in my living room, which doubles as a laundry rack too. So there you have it. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This video was brought to you by
Muscle Murder Protein.
128, 129. Oh, hey dude, I didn't see you there. Just finishing up this arms workout. 130. Woo! I know what you're thinking. How do you look like this? Normally I'd say I'm just built different, but the good news is you can look like me. Not with hard work, not by eating right or stupid shit like that. I have a real product that I want you to pay real money for. Muscle Murder Protein Powder. 152 grams of protein per serving. The best part is that it's made from 100% all natural grass-fed rhinoceros. Wait, like there's just ground up rhinoceroses or something? Okay, cool, that's exactly what they need. All right, so get your first tub of Muscle Murder Protein with promo code SWOLECAKESTEPH for 15% off your first order. Do it so I get money. Hey, you know, maybe that could have been me in an alternate life. If I'd kept going exactly the way I was, maybe I really would have become a fitness influencer. I could have made fitness my #1 all-consuming priority and spent all of my waking hours in the gym and feeding myself and maybe getting more jacked. Maybe I could have even been pushing my promo code for products and supplement stacks. But I didn't. Instead, I just lifted quietly. In fact, I never thought I'd come back and talk about any of this. For a long time, I didn't think I had a story here, that there was anything worth saying. But then I looked again, and I looked as an outsider would. And I started to wonder if maybe there was more to the story than I initially thought. Not just in my body, but in everything else. People in fitness constantly talk about making fitness a lifestyle, making it sustainable, that working out and eating right shouldn't be something that comes and goes with the seasons. I agree with that, and well, I think I found it. This is what sustainability looks like, doesn't it? This non-fitness influencer, realistic approach to fitness over many, many years, probably until I die. Not 3-hour gym days, not insane bulking and cutting cycles or extreme abs in 30 days type dieting. Something that just fits into my life instead of consuming it. But I only got here to this place because I had come from a place of going too far. And that's what I need to talk about next. That this is more than just a physical transformation. If you only look at these pictures, you get the tiniest sliver of the story. Because what these don't show you, what you don't see in these side-by-side pictures is how somewhere along the way, that audacious goal I chased and shared on that fateful day over 10 years ago is actually not the same goal that has led me to looking the way I do now. See, this isn't really a video about fitness. Not in the way you might think. It's also not a cautionary tale against doing something you want to do. No, I'm not your mom. Do what you want to do. This video is about how a goal that's important, truly important, takes hold of you, how it creeps into your routines and sinks into your habits, how all of a sudden one day you wake up and your entire search history is every variation of how much protein is in whatever. And you fill in whatever, just copy and paste that 30 times a day. There are literally millions of resources about goal setting, how to set them,
and so the 12-month celebration is just a very simple way of approaching goal setting.
How to stick with them.
If an action feels impossible, just keep breaking it down until it feels possible.
And how to make them achievable.
Stop wasting your life. I'm going to share with you the 7 principles to achieve all your goals this year.
But few of them ever talk in detail about the after, let alone a long time after. Even fewer talk about what I'm about to talk about, which is what happens when a goal starts to shift under your feet. And when it does, how you shift with it. And how one day you're just trying to lift heavier, and the next you're spiraling because you missed one workout and now you're convinced the whole day is ruined, that your progress will vanish overnight, that maybe you weren't even that disciplined to begin with. So screw it, might as well go all in on a pint of Ben & Jerry's because
what's the point of anything anymore?
And then before you know it, you're just in free fall. And that's when you realize goals don't just change you. They shape you, they push you, they demand things from you, things you may or may not be willing to give. And if you go far enough, goals break you. But you build yourself back up, you always do, just piece by piece. I know all of this sounds so awfully dramatic, but stick with me. Because this, what I've described, is the unspoken reality of goals. Even the unrealistic ones. It's not just about setting them and achieving them. It's about seeing who you become along the way. The goal I set in 2014 started off simple and extreme. Just build more muscle. Aspired to be as jacked as Dana Lynn Bailey. I didn't just want muscle, I wanted to earn it, to prove I was disciplined enough, tough enough, and that's how I bought into the whole fitness philosophy of no pain, no gain, that training wasn't just about lifting weights, but about proving something. Grit and perseverance were a reflection of your character. And yeah, I know there are a lot of fitness philosophies out there, different schools of thoughts, different communities. That was the one I once subscribed to. But what it eventually became and what it taught me went beyond physical appearances. It forced me to rethink everything I believed about progress, resilience, discipline, success, and even failure. It taught me what I'm capable of and even what I'm willing to do to achieve something. Almost a year after I posted that very first video, I uploaded more videos. Oh, a lot more. And this one in particular was my way of drawing a line in the sand and then crossing it. It was like a quasi-ending to my transformation story. Like I'd arrived. Like I'd finally looked more like Dana Lynn Bailey. I acted like I was thrilled with my progress. I wasn't. I tried to cover up my disappointment with platitudes like,
Because when you stick to something, you learn new things about yourself that you didn't think you were capable of before. It's really all about moderation.
And even at the time, buried somewhere beneath the abs I was trying so hard to carve out, I felt the half-truth of everything I was saying. I never reached the end I had in mind, because the end I imagined wasn't the one I actually needed. The goal shifted. I shifted, and I ended up reaching something better than I had planned. I just didn't realize it at the time. On camera, I had turned this whole thing into a neatly contained moment in my life. A chapter closed. Task done. And then I moved on with my life, and moved on from YouTube not too long after. That's what you saw, but what you didn't see was a slow unraveling that followed over the next 9 years. The year is 2018. 4 years after my first YouTube video, I'm in the kitchen of my downtown apartment, weighing some liquid egg whites to cook for dinner. By now, enough time had created a distance from that goal, the one I set in 2014, that I should be focused on other things, right? Living a different life, right? Maybe enjoying different foods, right? Right? Yet here I am with the same 35 grams of protein, the same meal, the same ritual I've had for years. After dinner, I walk over to the mirror. This routine is autopilot by now. My eyes scan up and down my reflection like they always do, assessing, scrutinizing. Arms could be leaner. Shoulders, well, they're not jacked enough. And my stomach, I pinch it between my fingers and decide there's still more to lose. There's always more to lose. By all reasonable standards, I should have been satisfied. I should have felt fit enough. But in that moment, all I could see are all the ways I still fall short. What started as a seemingly straightforward fitness goal in 2014 morphed into something else entirely. And at first I thought I was just being disciplined. But discipline, when left unchecked, can start to look a lot like obsession. And before I knew it, I wasn't just chasing a goal anymore. I was chasing a moving target. But how did I get here? How did I get this far? Well, I think to understand that, we first need to take a slight detour into the wild, grueling, chicken breast fueled world of building inhuman amounts of muscle, entirely for sport. And that's bodybuilding. If there's one name that everyone knows, it's this guy.
I'll be back.
The thing about bodybuilding isn't that it's just lifting weights. It's an extreme sport, one that demands brutal and meticulous discipline in your training and diet. Also that you could build every ounce of muscle, every line of definition, and every fraction of symmetry, and have them scrutinized on stage, in front of judges and hundreds and thousands of adoring fans. Arnold wasn't just competing. He wasn't just the best. He was redefining the game. Today, bodybuilding has only gone more extreme, more shredded, more obsessed. Competitors now look like those AI-generated images where someone just screamed, "More muscle!" 17 times into the prompt. And as an outsider looking into this world, it's easy to think, no thanks, not for me. But once you dip your toes in, you realize this world, it has a way of pulling you under. Which brings us back to 2014 Stephanie.
Welcome to bodybuilding.com.
I had just started working at bodybuilding.com, one of the biggest fitness websites in the world. I was into fitness, I liked working out, but it was a completely new world. One that would radicalize me, not just into lifting, but into the idea that my body was something I could sculpt, shape, and chisel like a work of art. It wasn't long before I started to wonder, could I do that too? And so what started as something radical and empowering slowly peeled back layers I didn't even know existed. And very quickly I lost track of where self-improvement ended and where self-destruction began. On the surface, being surrounded constantly by elite physiques was extremely motivating. It was easy to be inspired. It was easy to feed off of the energy and the drive of the people around me. We'd work out together, push each other, pick each other up when the going gets rough. It really felt like a community, all in the same pursuit of a healthier, fitter lifestyle. But slowly, without even noticing really, it stops feeling like inspiration, and it becomes more of the standard. And before you know it, that standard starts shaping your entire world. Your weekly workouts feel like military operations. Your food is measured down to the decimal of a gram. Your dedication is questioned if you don't follow the plan to perfection. Yes, the plan. The nutrition plan is everything. And when you get deep into a philosophy, it becomes dogma. Every fitness philosophy is different and has its own set of rules, and different things work for different folks. To be clear, I followed a dieting philosophy called IIFYM, if it fits your macros, as in macronutrients. It's also known as flexible dieting. But don't let the name fool you. It's flexible in the sense that I could eat a Pop-Tart if it fits, but I took it very, very seriously. So seriously that there was one time a bowl of oatmeal had exploded in the microwave. Now, any normal person would have just cleaned it up and maybe eaten what was left in the bowl and moved on with their day. But me? I stood there in this grip of panic, thinking, how much oatmeal was left in this bowl? Could I just scoop it back in and eat it? No, the macros would be off. I had to make a choice. Eat it and risk my numbers being wrong, or throw it away like I was covering up a murder scene. I chose the latter. I threw it away because I wouldn't know if it fit my macros anymore. Is that extreme behavior? Looking back, 1000% yes. But in that moment, it was truly apocalyptic to me. I was so dialed in, a spilled bowl of oatmeal felt like a federal crime. That's when I had that inkling of a realization that maybe this isn't normal. This isn't just about some lost macros. It goes deeper. In fact, this wasn't even the first time something started to crack. I remember one moment vividly. I was sitting in a conference room at work with some coworkers. One of them was a few weeks out from a bodybuilding show, and typically, as you get closer to a show, the more restricted and extreme your diet becomes. The guy was starving by this point, his cravings through the roof, and he shared something out loud with us. He said, I could really eat a whole box of Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal right about now. A totally reasonable craving. Some of us even go, ooh, that does sound good. And then, out of nowhere, without missing a beat, another guy just says it, like it's the most obvious solution in the world. He says, why don't you eat the cereal and spit it back out? There was no ironic smirk, no laughter, no, haha, just kidding. And the worst part about this was that we all just nodded, like we heard a totally reasonable tip, like this was just another day in the office. In retrospect, it's clear now that my relationship with food wasn't just unhealthy. It got warped into something it was never meant to be. It started off as control, but control became restriction. Restriction became punishment, and punishment became a cycle that was more and more difficult to break. The nightly egg white dinners, the exploded bowl of oatmeal, those weren't just funny quirks. They were clear signs, proof that I was no longer in control of my goal anymore. The goal controlled me. And remember that Cinnamon Toast Crunch comment? That was the thing that cracked the whole facade of healthy living wide open for me. A casual comment about chewing and spitting out food like it was totally normal was a mirror held up to the whole industry. And it showed how quickly the extreme becomes the standard. How when you're surrounded by it every day, you stop questioning it and it stops feeling like a choice. This was the pit I had fallen into, where my self-worth got tangled up in leanness. A fit body wasn't just fit anymore, just not lean enough. And no matter how hard I tried, it was never enough. That's the danger of chasing an ideal in a culture that rewards extremes. And if you weren't willing to go that far, they'd say that maybe you just didn't want it badly enough, didn't push to your limits. I never went as far as cutting or competing for a show. As deep in it as I was, even then I recognized that that would be tantamount to throwing gasoline onto a fire. And no, I'm not saying bodybuilding is inherently bad and that no one should ever do it. I get the appeal. I respect the people who do it. Some people love tracking macros and chasing that level of discipline. I thought I did too, until I didn't. If you make bodybuilding your career, if your physique is your job, maybe these sacrifices and extreme behaviors make total sense. But for the rest of us, if you're just here to look better, to feel good in your body, to be strong, without making fitness your entire personality or job or life, there has to be a better balance. And if there was, I had to ask myself, why couldn't I find it? By this point, I'd spent years revolving my priorities around a goal that I no longer wanted. And then one day, standing in front of the mirror like I always did, maybe it was the lighting, maybe it was exhaustion. I actually heard what I was saying to myself, like really heard it. God, why do you even try? Your arms look exactly the same. They're flabby and they're fat. No one thinks you're hot. Just give up. You think being strong will hide the fact that you're a loser? You're pathetic. This is embarrassing. You're trying so hard and you still look like this. This was supposed to fix you. You're embarrassing. You think you're fooling anyone? They all know you're a fraud. You can't do anything right. You lazy sack of shit. No wonder you'll never be like DLB. This was supposed to make you happy. You don't deserve to be happy. Such brutally cruel things that I'd never say to another person, ever. And yet somehow I had no problem saying these things to myself every single day. I had to face the truth. I gave so much, my time, energy, sanity, and this is what I get. This is how I feel. All that effort and sacrifice, and somehow I hated myself more. That was when I finally questioned the goal itself. Not whether I could reach it, but whether it was worth the cost. So, what's the first thing that needs to change? The fact that I still tracked all of my meals meticulously, obsessively. The fact that I still weighed myself every morning, ready to sound the alarm for even the slightest shift in numbers. The fact that I still checked my reflection over and over, searching for flaws that only I could see. Or the fact that I still need to go on a long run or a hike to cancel out the binge from the night before. Where do I start? That's the thing about goals, right? They don't fundamentally change who you are or how you feel about yourself. They don't just disappear. Habits remain. Mindset, the good and the bad, it lingers. And the self-criticism, yeah, that part stays really loud. I wish I could tell you that in one flash of genius, I figured everything out and changed overnight. That didn't happen, of course. What actually happened was slower, messier, and a lot of figuring out what I actually wanted, and then slowly gaining clarity over many years. I didn't know what would come next exactly, but I just knew I couldn't let that voice, the one in the mirror, run my life anymore. By this point, I had long disappeared from YouTube and stepped away from social media. I didn't make some grand announcement, I just left. And at that time, I couldn't fully explain why. Now looking back, the reason couldn't be more obvious. I felt embarrassed. I had made this goal so public. How could I not have achieved the transformation that I said I would? 'Cause here's the thing, when you make your goals public like that, you've basically signed a binding contract with your YouTube commenters. Jake Pumpmaster 2000 is counting on you now. Shanina Goophauser Living Bottom is counting on you now. Oh shit, is that a real name? Let me look this up. You can't let them down. You might as well crawl under a rock and disappear forever. You didn't do the thing you said you would. So that's exactly what I did. But now, obviously, I'm back. And after a lot of thinking, I did a lot of soul searching, I realized something. Something we all knew from the very beginning. Unrealistic expectations. Because yeah, I thought success actually looked more like Dana Lynn Bailey. And when I didn't have her arms or her shoulders, it felt like some kind of failure. Never mind the fact that I had learned so much. Never mind the fact that I was the strongest version of myself that I'd ever been. All of that was real, but still, I guess it wasn't enough. The goal itself wasn't the problem. The habits I built weren't the problem. The problem was the belief that things like happiness, confidence, self-worth, were all things that were waiting for me at the finish line. That once I looked the part, I would automatically feel the part too. But that's not how it works, does it? And that misunderstanding, the gap between what I hoped for and what actually happened, it left me with a version of myself that I didn't recognize. The part that still gets me is that I even imagined all these people on YouTube watching and sneering and whispering, "I told you so." It's like sometimes you really are your own worst enemy. When you see someone like DLB, her sheer size, her definition, the effortless dominance of her presence, It's easy to assume that maybe, just maybe, you could achieve some version of that if you just trained hard enough, if you just dialed in your diet, if you just gave it a few months or even a year. Okay, as an aside, I know that it's highly contentious that DLB and a lot of other bodybuilders in this world probably use some extra help. That's definitely a whole other conversation. And me mentioning it shouldn't take away from her extreme dedication and her insane training. Both things can be true. Okay, back to what I was saying. But here's what completely went over my head, and maybe what a lot of other people miss when they first look at someone else's success. It's that DLB didn't just train really, really, really hard for 6 months or even a year. She'd been training for nearly a decade and spent at least 4 years of brutally hard training before she went on to win the competition that put her on the map, and that was Olympia in 2013. And here's her just talking about her dedication.
I still train exactly the same, but I'm not getting on stage. So, but I would train for 3 hours, like 3 hours, easy.
You love it.
And it just, because I never felt like it was enough.
Now, contrast that with me, lifting weight sometimes, following my nutrition plan for the most part, but definitely not saying no enough to blueberry muffins and other treats. The truth is, I wasn't doing what DLB did. I wasn't living how she lived, training how she trained, and I wasn't willing to. And that's the thing no one talks about, sacrifice. And what sacrifices are actually necessary to look like this. Which brings me to this Arnold clip from Pumping Iron. Here's him answering a question about how he stays focused.
You cannot have any kind of an outside negative force coming in and affect you. Okay, let's say before a contest, if I get emotionally involved with a girl, that can have a negative effect on my mind and therefore destroy my workout. So therefore I have to cut my emotions off and be kind of cold.
Okay, I have to interject here due to some copyright snafus, but here's what Arnold goes on to say next. That if his car got stolen, who cares? He couldn't be bothered with it. And I want to show you now how far this mindset goes as he talks about his own dad's funeral.
And this was exactly 2 months before a contest. She says, do you come home to the funeral? I said, no. It's too late, he's dead, there's nothing to be done.
Physique gods like DLB and Arnold don't just exist to remind the rest of us that we're not hardcore enough. They exist to show us what happens when someone fully commits. Not just casually, not just when motivation strikes, but when every waking moment is shaped by a singular, all-consuming goal. And well, that was not me. I thought it was, but that level of dedication and sacrifice, they weren't there. And accepting that was the hardest lesson for me to learn. In the meanwhile, I fell victim to the comparison trap, comparing my own genetics, training, habits, and effort to someone who had dedicated everything they had for the sport. And I had sorely mismanaged my expectations of this entire journey. And it took all this time and more to slide back to a point of balance where I could finally say, this is what I'm willing to commit to. This is what I'm willing to sacrifice. And this is good enough for me. And I think that was the first step of healing. And over time, I applied that thinking elsewhere. Like, if my body feels wrecked from doing deadlifts and biking 20 miles that week, instead of beating myself up for wanting to skip the gym, I let it go instead of just pushing through. I mean, I do it kicking and screaming, but I let it go. If I feel guilty for eating more than I planned and that inner critic starts creeping in, I tell myself, we don't say that anymore. Not to silence the voice, but to remind all the parts of me, past and present, that we are on the same side now. And it took me a long time to learn that naming my limits and living with them didn't mean I was giving up. It meant I was finally listening. Then there's the other thing. Life and just time passing. As I've gotten older, my life and priorities have changed. My body has changed. It doesn't recover as quickly from hard workout days. Joints creak a bit more. Sometimes I pull a neck muscle just sneezing too hard. Truly a peak athlete in my prime, I know. But when those things change, so do goals. I don't regret starting this whole journey at all, building discipline, habits, structure, that's never a waste. And that's the strange thing about goals. It doesn't matter what goal you set. It doesn't matter if you achieve them or not. Although I know a lot of people would come after me for saying this. You know the saying, it's not the destination, it's the journey. Because in the end, it's not just about hitting a goal, even if you learn along the way how unattainable it is. It's about what happens in the pursuit of it, when you push yourself, when you commit to something as much and as openly as you can, when a goal forces you to confront your hopes, your fears, and you, that's when you learn the most about yourself. They could take you down a very dark, obsessive path, and maybe they're supposed to, because only when you get to an extreme do you get to ask the real question. Do I actually like this? And if you say yes, then you keep going. But if the answer is no, then what comes next? For some people, it means a total shift in priorities. For others, a completely new fitness philosophy altogether. For me, tracking every gram of food very closely for every meal, no matter what, for 8 years taught me how to use food as a tool. It taught me how to eyeball food now, so I know how much almond butter is too much almond butter. It's always too much. All of that was extremely valuable. It taught me a lot. But as I got older, that kind of control and mindset weren't what I wanted anymore. I didn't want to see food as just fuel. I wanted to travel to places and eat the foods that food tracking apps couldn't possibly have information on. Yet. I wanted to hang out with my niece and crush a double scoop of salt and straw ice cream in a waffle cone without mentally tallying the macros or spiraling because I overindulged. I wanted to stop seeing food as numbers and start seeing it as a way to connect to people I care about, to experiences, and to life. So I had to unlearn. And I didn't mean completely abandon or pull away in disgust. Just, dial it back. I had to morph it into something else that could fit where I am in life now. I wish I could tell you the exact moment when I decided to stop logging into my food tracking app. Because, to be honest, I can't remember. It just happened one day. I had tried plenty of times, and each time, I'd go right back to the app. Because even when I wanted to stop, I still wanted the control. But this time, the time that I was able to finally do it, something was different. It wasn't like there was a flash of lightning in sight. It wasn't even because of the presence of something new. It was actually in the absence of something that I knew things were different. And what that usually was this creeping panic. The one that told me I was slipping, that I needed to get back on track before everything fell apart. But that panic never came. And I felt okay. That was the moment of growth for me. Maybe it was because I knew that following a nutrition plan to the letter wasn't important to me anymore. Or maybe it was because I had some injuries and I wanted to prioritize not hurting myself more and just wanting to feel good in my day-to-day, rather than chase a number in the gym or the scale. Or maybe, and this is just a little wishful thinking, I just stopped giving a shit. Well, whatever it was, I was finally ready to let go. And gradually, I stopped tracking every gram. I stopped nitpicking my body in the mirror. Okay, that part's a lie, I still do. But I promise there's just a teeny bit less venom in it. I try to be nicer to myself. And I stopped seeing fitness as an all or nothing. And to my surprise, nothing bad happened. Body didn't suddenly fall apart when I stopped counting every calorie. And for the first time since I started this journey over 10 years ago, I felt more... Okay, I don't know if this is gonna sound really corny, but I felt free. Free like the world had opened up to me. I was free in these small but meaningful ways. Like, if I was out and I couldn't get to my kitchen in familiar egg whites and chicken, oh well, I'll grab a bagel from a coffee shop and have that. Finally, it's like I had the confidence to trust myself and my body to do these things. The confidence to know that I won't suddenly lose all of my progress because of a few missed workouts, or because I didn't get enough protein that day. And this kind of confidence isn't just something you unlock after a certain amount of time. It's something you build, just like everything else. In the end, it was never really about forcing this ideal physique. It was really about figuring out how to live with the version of who I am now, and learning, slowly, that maybe she's enough. Or at the very least, not the enemy. have to admit, there's something simultaneously gratifying and unsettling about showing you my after photo. Gratifying because by making this video and putting it out there after all these years makes me feel like I can officially earmark this as a transformation. Not just physical, but mental, spiritual, emotional, all of it. And it's unsettling because for a long time, I wondered if my results were even good enough to show. Because when you spend years immersed in the epicenter of fitness culture, you don't just chase progress anymore. You chase an ideal. And usually that ideal is an extreme. For years, I really bought into it. I really believed that if I wasn't doing more, if I wasn't living in the gym, inhaling the philosophies like they're oxygen and tracking every last macro, then I wasn't trying hard enough. Real fitness isn't extreme. It's not spectacle. It's just showing up more often than not. And saying that is a lot harder to market. Looking at my before and after photos now, I can say without question, my results are phenomenal. Not because it's extreme in the sense that it happened fast. It didn't. Not in the sense it was easy. It definitely was not. But it's a real transformation. And it's a lasting one. And I feel damn proud of that. But here's the question that's probably been in the back of your mind. Why now? Why finally reveal this transformation 10 plus years later? It wasn't that it took me 10 years to achieve my goal. I chose now because it took me this long to mentally accept that I did achieve my original goal. I had already won. It just took me 10 years to realize it. More than the physical changes, this mental shift is proof that I've truly changed, that I've become the person I once hoped to be. Because if there's a single idea at the core of this video, it's this. Maybe a goal isn't just something to achieve. Maybe the real purpose of a goal is to shape you, so that even when you let it go, the person you've become is better for having chased it. Goals aren't meant to stay the same forever. They grow and change as you do. And if yours hasn't yet, maybe it just means you're not ready for it to, and that's okay. As you can plainly see, change doesn't happen all at once. You don't just flip a switch and become someone new. You don't wake up one day and suddenly love yourself because you hit a certain body weight or a certain body fat percentage. I can promise you that. And even 10 years later, you sit here writing this video and you realize that while things have changed, they're far from perfect. I can feel guilty for missing workouts still. I can feel terrible both physically and mentally for eating way too much carrot cake. But the difference is how I respond to these feelings now. Because no matter how far I've come, old instincts don't just disappear. They still linger, just a little bit below the surface. They're a little quieter, less overwhelming, easier to manage, but they're still there. These days, my goal is simple: train and eat enough protein. Or try to. Not so I could chase an aesthetic goal, but it's so I can keep doing the things I love doing, like biking and backpacking, running, well into old age. And the fact that I do get to enhance my physique is just a natural byproduct and a great bonus. So what started as a short-term goal to get stronger has quietly become my long-term plan. I know a lot of you are chasing something right now. Maybe you'll get there. Maybe you won't. But trust me when I say, no matter what, who you become along the way will be worth it. 2014 Stephanie didn't know it then, but the goal was never really the goal. That was just a starting goal. Even now, I'm still changing. And I can't wait to see where it all takes me. Hey there, thanks so much for watching. If this video spoke to you, I write other essays and share updates on future videos in my newsletter. You can find it at signalversusself.com. Okay, now this is really the end of the video.